Hey everyone, today I'll be giving my tutorial for making hanging quote decor, and you can use this for your bedroom or wherever. This is what I made for my bedroom, and it says, "Be true to who you are," and it's hanging on the headboard above my bed. Okay, here are the materials that you'll need. Scrapbook paper and as many sheets as you need for whatever your quote will say. Natural jute, and I got that from Hobby Lobby. Stick glue, and a brown paper bag. I chose that for recycling purposes, but you can use whatever paper you need. Alright, so we're about to get started, but first let me explain that you will need a hole punch added to your materials list. I forgot to mention that before because I just recently added this onto the list because I changed my hanging method for how we're going to put the letters onto the jute. At first I was going to use clothespins, but then I decided that that's a lot of clothespins, so instead we're going to thread the jute through the holes. Okay, now the first step to this project is basically taking the scrapbook paper that you have and cutting it down to size. Now I have 4 pieces, let me mention that, which should make about 24 letters I believe, but you may need more depending on how long your quote is. I didn't use all of mine, but I have options to use more. But you want to cut this down to 4 inches by 6 inches. Next, you're going to want to cut out your letters. You can use a variety of methods for this. You can use a die cut machine, which is what I use, but that's provided to me by my campus. So if you don't have that available, feel free to use stencils or, cut it out yourself by hand, or even get the punch out letters that you can get from Office Max or whatever. I'm just laying out my letters and making sure they're spaced evenly for my first word, which is B. You're going to want to make sure, like I said, they're evenly spaced and lining up with each other before you prepare to put the glue on them. And just make sure, it looks well when it's put together because you want them to be even with each other when they're hanging. Alright, if you remember from the materials, you saw that I have that huge red container store bag. So when you go to cutting out your letters, you want to make sure you're cutting them out on the right side, that they're facing the right way. Like, you don't want to cut them out backwards and then end up facing the wrong way, because then you have a printed cutout. Now, of course, this doesn't matter for every letter. It just matters for letters like B, E, the first letters of this quote. So you want to make sure you do focus on that, but it doesn't matter for T or O or anything like that. So just make sure you're aware of that. But next, we're going to begin to glue our letters. So you just want to go ahead and put glue on the back of each letter and center it onto the sheet. When you're doing this, you just want to make sure that you're placing the letter lower on each scrapbook paper because you do want to leave room for your hole punch. So just come down about, I would say, a ½ inch to an inch and make sure you leave room for those hole punches. Now, when you add the glue, you want to make sure you just lightly press it on there. You don't want to put it on there completely yet, and just try to center it first, and then you can press it on completely after it's centered. Alright, so now you can see that I have enough space for the hole punch at the top, and I can just, put the 2 hole punches there to make sure I have room to hang it through. And now you're going to want to start your work on the next letter, and you can glue it down the same exact way, but this time you need to make sure that you're lining up the letters evenly, and work on lining them up with each other because you don't want to leave too much. You don't want to be crooked, and you don't want to leave too much space on one side or anything like that. You want it to look pretty uniform. At this point, I'm just lining them up side by side to make sure they're even. You can also use a ruler for this method. I used an index card because that's all I had with me at that moment. But just make sure you line them up evenly. And I also want to mention that you should feel free to make extra letters because this is easily removable, and you can make different quotes if you want to. Alright, so I just continued with that and did all the letters up to the point that I was going to show you the problem that I did come across with my W. My W is actually way too big. The die cut machine has this large, sideways facing W, and I couldn't use that because it was just way too big for this project. So I had to cut it down to size. What I did is I cut off the center part of it, and then I basically took the 2 halves of the W and tried to put them together again in a way that it's not too obvious. But basically I had to do this to make sure that the letter would fit on the scrapbook paper because it was just way too big when I tried with the die cut machine. So you could do this if you have to, if you use a W. It doesn't look bad. I did a bad job of cutting it because I wasn't really doing what I probably should have and taking my time. So Alright, so I went ahead and glued down the W, and like I said, I have already completed other words. And I'm basically just finishing up this project. My memory is going to be full after this, and you will see the results of the jute being through with the hole punch and everything soon. But basically just complete the letters and make sure everything is even and looks nice. Okay, so you can see I glued all the letters down and I've done my W and everything and fixed that situation, and I don't think it looks that bad. So I have all my letters glued down and I've hole punched all of them, and you can see how I left the room and put the jute through at the top for all the hole punches. And at this point I want to make sure that the holes are even, so I basically took an index card and marked on the index card how like where the corners would be, so I could like hole punch next to each corner. So that was my own way of making a ruler, but you can use a ruler the same way and mark where you want to hole punch. So I did that, and you can see. Alright, so I took my jute and put my jute through each holes. The method I used is I came back through the back of it, went to the front, and then came through the back again, or through the front going to the back with each hole. And I just did that with every sheet so that each letter is hanging the same way. Now you can also use different things to hang these. You can use ribbon, you can use anything. I just chose jute because it goes to my room. But what you're going to really want to make sure you do is you space them well, leaving a space between each word and a little bit of space between each letter. Not too much, obviously. You want to look like it's one word, but just make sure you space them well. And that's all. And then you have your quote hanging. And here's the final product. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and that you give it a try sometime. Thanks for watching. Bye.